Where's his name? I hope you enjoy that interview because, like I said to you, we have an action-packed borderlines for you today. So, my next guest is the spokesperson for Hamas. His name is Osama Hamdan. Mr. Hamdan, did I pronounce your name correctly?
Hamdan, it's Hamdan.
Hamdan, okay. Would you like me to call you Mr. Hamdan or Osama?
It's no difference.
Okay.
The is for you.
Okay. Thank you for joining us. Where are you joining us from today, by the way?
Beirut.
From Beirut. Okay. Let's get straight into it because we don't have much time, unfortunately. Yesterday, there was ceasefire talks. Hamas had said they were not going to take part. However, Qatar said Hamas was going to be represented. Was Hamas represented? And what is Hamas's position this morning?
Well, I have to explain our position. We have been negotiating the ceasefire for the last 8 months. It started at the 24th of January. Until now, the mediators are providing us with proposals. Each time we accept the proposal, the Israelis denied that. And they start talking about other conditions, new conditions, postponing their answers for the mediators. And each time when the mediators provide both sides with some proposals, the Israeli reaction directly came up with new massacres. For example, after the proposal came from Paris meeting in February, the Israelis committed the massacre of the what's called the Al-Kuwait Acts, which was the people were hanging there, waiting for the aids coming from the UN, and they were bombed. All of them, they were civilians, they were bombed. We are talking about more than 100 people were killed. Most of them were children and women.
Okay.
And in May, there was another proposal which Hamas accepted, and the Israelis postponed their answer for 3 weeks. Within those 3 weeks, they committed several massacres, and at the end of the month, they told the Americans, the Qataris, and the Egyptians that they don't accept that proposal. There was a paper from the Israelis at the end of May. President Biden endorsed that paper, and he declared that in his statements, and we welcome the statements of President Biden. Then he went to the United Nations and the International Security Council, and they declared their support for those ideas, and there was a resolution 2735 at the 10th of June. We welcomed that resolution, and we declared acceptance for that resolution. According to that, and based on both Biden initiative and this declaration from the United Nations, there was a proposal introduced to Hamas, based also on the Israeli papers. It was introduced in 24th of June. After 6 days, we informed the mediators that we accept the proposal, and that was according to the guarantees provided from the United States and the mediators, I mean the Egyptians and the Qataris. The Israelis replied that by the massacre of which attacked the refugees in Al-Mawasi, and they claimed that they were targeting a leader from Hamas, which was uncovered that they were lying. And then they assassinated Ismail Haniyeh, the head of the political bureau of Hamas, as a practical reply for the proposal came from the mediators. We announced at that moment that we are still committed to our acceptance. Now they called for a new negotiations. We informed the mediators that we don't need the new negotiations. We need the implementation of what was provided to Hamas and the Israelis. We want the Americans to show the power that they are in the position that they can make the needed pressure on Israel to stop the massacre, the genocide. In fact, it's not a massacre, it's more than massacre, it's a genocide in Gaza.
Okay.
Unfortunately, there was no reply. So our position was, if you are asking us to participate in new negotiations, we will not attend. But if you are talking about an executive program to implement what we had accepted, we are welcoming to be there. Unfortunately, after 2 days of negotiations, we were informed a few minutes ago by the mediators that the Israelis did not accept the proposal.
Okay. Let's go back to October 7th. We are now 10 months on. Does Hamas regret invading and killing 1,200 Israelis on October 7th, 10 months on, given that over 40,000 innocent Palestinians have been killed so far?
Well, this is a good question, because you can't start reading the history of the Palestinian cause from the 7th of October. You have to start reading the Palestinian history with the Israelis from the 15th of May of 1948, when an Israeli state was established on the occupied Palestinian lands, and the Palestinians at that time, they were massacred, and there was a genocide. We were talking about more than 10,000 Palestinians were killed during a few days, and more than 800,000 Palestinians were kicked out from their homeland to the neighbor countries, Jordan, Syria, Lebanon, and Egypt. And through the last 76 years, the Palestinians were under the occupation of the Israelis, and they were being killed daily by the Israelis. We were talking about an Israeli occupation for 76 years. What the Palestinians are supposed to do? They tried the peace process. There was Oslo agreement. They signed an agreement with the Israelis. And what had happened after that? Nothing happened. In fact, the Israelis did not implement the agreement which they have signed in the White House with the Palestinian leadership at that time, I mean Yasser Arafat. It shows the Palestinians that there is no way to achieve their goals unless they resist the occupation. So the resistance is a continuous situation. The Israelis try to make more massacres, more genocide, and they claim that it is a reaction for the Palestinian resistance, while in fact they kill the Palestinians while we are reacting against the occupation.
Okay, given the history, which we've spoken about a great deal on this show, I still have to ask you, October 7th, 2023, does Hamas regret that incursion into Israel, killing so many civilians?
In fact, October 7th was a military operation against the Israeli army who was putting Gaza under the siege.
Okay, but if I may interrupt you, because we don't have much time, I do need to interrupt you. If the intention was to kill the IDF, why then did Hamas kill so many innocent civilians and take over 300 hostage?
Well, this is what the Israelis have said. They've said that there was 40 children beheaded, there was women who were raped, and now their investigations said that those were lies. And the people who gave those lies, now they are saying in public that we lied. More than this, I want to add more than this.
Go ahead.
A police investigation shows that most of the civilians were killed by the Israeli armies who felt or who suspected that there was militant Palestinians there. The target was the army, and the army reacted against their own civilians, feeling that there was civilians or militants among those civilians. Anyway, I believe we have said from day number one, and we are still insisting, we want an independent investigation international committee who can investigate what had happened exactly. You know, there was an investigation, but Israel blocked that. They did not allow any Israeli to talk. They did not allow anyone who called victims to talk to those members of the committee, because they knew better than anyone else This will uncover their lies. There was an independent investigation.
Now, let's talk about Ismail Haniyeh, who was killed.
One more point, excuse me.
I beg your
One more
pardon?
point.
Yes.
Let's accept what you are saying. There was 1,000 Israelis who were killed. Does it worth or that give the right for killing more than 40,000 Palestinians? This gave the right for them to kill the Palestinians forever. They have been killing the Palestinians. It's their nature. They are killing the Palestinians for the last 70 years, and they are killing them now. Let's go to West Bank, the last point. In West Bank, there was no military operation. Till now, in the last 10 months, 800 Palestinians were killed. 50% of them were children. 25% of them were women. They were not participating in the military operation in Gaza. They were living in West Bank. Just yesterday, they attacked villages. They are killing the Palestinians even where there is no resistance, like, for example, in West Bank.
Okay, let's talk about Ismail Haniyeh, who was killed. Well, Israel claims they're not responsible, that they haven't, and Israel hasn't accepted to having been responsible for the death of Ismail Haniyeh. I have to ask you a question. With Hamas refusing to take part in the ceasefire, is it a retaliation for what Hamas believes to have been Israel's assassination of Ismail Haniyeh?
We are not talking about retaliation here. We are talking about the resistance against the occupation, and we understand that the Israelis are killing the leaders and the people of the Palestinians. We don't differentiate between the Palestinian leadership and the Palestinian people. They are killing both. So it's not an idea of retaliation. We said after the assassination that we are still committed to what we had accepted. But the Israelis today informed the mediators that they are rejecting the proposal which was accepted by Hamas. It wasn't the Hamas proposal. It was the United States proposal built on the ideas of President Biden and the international resolution in the Security Council. They rejected what had Hamas accepted. I want to add more. You said that Israel did not claim the responsibility of the assassination of Ismail Haniyeh. I want to tell you this. Few hours after the assassination of Ismail Haniyeh, there was a statement in the media on the air by the Prime Minister himself. He said, we have attacked Hodeidah, and that means Yemen, and we have attacked Dahia, it means Lebanon, and also we had attacked Tehran. And he said, our hand is long enough to do that everywhere. What does it mean? He claimed the responsibility for Hodeidah, and he claimed the responsibility for the assassination which took place in Dahia, and he added that in Tehran. It was his own words. It was not a claim from Hamas. Going further, the investigations shows the kind and the type of the weapon which was used, and that points directly to the Israelis and the Americans.
Okay, I need to ask you, Yahya Sinwar has been appointed the leader of Hamas in place of Haniyeh since Haniyeh's death. Why Yahya Sinwar?
You know, we chose our leadership in a democratic basis.
But many would argue that Hamas is not a democratic government, given that the last election that took place in Gaza was over 20 years ago.
Well, look, it's not our responsibility that the last elections was before 20 years ago. We participate in the elections, and we as Palestinians have arranged a new elections in the year 2021. The one who prevented that to take place was the Israelis themselves. They did not allow the Palestinians to practice their right in Jerusalem, and that caused the postponement of the elections. So as Palestinians, on both levels, in Hamas internally, we elect our own leadership, and when we participate in our community, among our people, we support the democratic process, and we were elected, and we have declared all the time that we are ready to be part of any democratic process, because we believe that the people have to elect their own leadership, which have to take the responsibility to lead them in their way, long way, to liberate from the occupation and build their own independent sovereign state.
Okay, so back to Yahya Sinwar. So why Yahya Sinwar, if I may say, who is known to be an extremist? Sorry, who is known to be an extremist to replace Ismail Haniyeh? Permit me, Ismail Haniyeh, who is known to be something more of a liberal. Why?
Yahya Sinwar is not an extremist. Yahya Sinwar, he supported the Palestinian internal reconciliation, and he led the process to reconcile with our brothers in Fatah, and he supported that in public and internally. So when he came to his own people, he's very smooth, he's looking after their benefits, and according to that, part of their benefits to be liberated from the occupation, he stands in a very good position against the occupation. So he have both issues. He is supporting the benefits of his own people, he's supporting the best life for his own people, and he is defending the right of his people to be liberated. So when he deals with the occupation, he is very tough, but when he deals with his own people, he's very smooth and he's accepted by his own people.
Okay.
This election was supported not only by Hamas, it was supported by all the Palestinian organizations. We received a very warm welcome from all the political Palestinian organizations, including Fatah itself, welcoming the election of Yahya Sinwar as a leader of Hamas.
Okay, I go back to it again. You say Yahya Sinwar is not an extremist. Israel will tell you Yahya Sinwar is an extremist. Even more so, Israel has said several times that Yahya Sinwar is the mastermind behind October 7th. Is that yes or no?
Well, that brings me to a very important point. Israel is occupying the Palestinian land. They are talking about the Palestinians as terrorists just because they are seeking to have their rights back. They have talked about Yasser Arafat as a terrorist. They have talked about PLO as a terrorist organization. They have talked about Fatah as a terrorist organization. They have talked about Hamas, Islamic Jihad, Popular Front, etc. as terrorist organizations. They want to get rid of the Palestinians. Nelson Mandela was identified as a terrorist in South Africa, and then he became the president of South Africa. He wasn't a terrorist. He claimed the right of his own people. And this is what we are doing as Palestinians. Our leaders are doing that, and they are taking the responsibility for this. I don't accept the claims of the Israelis. The Israelis, they are occupiers. They are attackers. They are taking over the lands. They are killing the Palestinians. They are committing a genocide, not by my words, by the words of the International Justice Court. They are committing genocide against the Palestinians. So why not to say that this organization is a hardliner and that organization is a terrorist? This man is sophisticated, and this is not an accepted person.
I need to interrupt you because... Permit me, I need to interrupt you because we don't have much time. What is Hamas's relationship with Iran?
We have good relations with Iran, and so with some other Arab countries and Islamic countries and on the international levels. We have relations with Russia. We have relations with China. We have relations with South Africa. We have relations with Saudi Arabia. We have relations with Egypt. We have relations with Algeria.
Okay.
We have relations with...
I understand that.
And we have some other Arab countries.
I understand that.
So why is talking about the relations with Iran?
Okay.
Because of one reason. Because Iran is supporting the resistance.
Okay.
Yes. We want all the countries to support the resistance, not only Iran.
Okay. Is Iran funding Hamas?
I didn't hear that.
Is Iran funding Hamas? Does Iran provide ammunitions and money to Hamas?
Well, everyone knows that. And some other countries do that. But the Iranians accept that to be in public. What does it mean? The United States is sending weapons to Israel. Why no one is talking about the air jets, the bombs, the rockets, which is used to kill the Palestinians? A few days ago, they sent weapons for Israel with 23 billion US dollars. So why anyone is surprised when someone supports the Palestinian resistance, while no one is talking about how they are supplying the killing machine of Israel to kill the Palestinians, the civilians, the women and the children in Palestine.
Okay. I've just, my interview before yours was with the Israeli ambassador to Nigeria, Ambassador Michael Freeman. One of the things he said was that Hamas committed mass rape on October 7th. Can you answer to that accusation, please? Did Hamas commit rape on October 7th?
Well, I think he is one of the liars, and everyone understands that their story did not stand in front of the facts on the ground. So it's part of the lies. And really, I am surprised that there is still an Israeli ambassador in Nigeria. How Nigeria can deal with a country committing a genocide? How Nigeria can accept to have political relations with a country committing genocide and lies about that? I still remind everyone.
If I may come in there, you are speaking to me in Nigeria. The Nigerian government has said they support a two-state solution. Number one, Nigeria, permit me. Nigeria's foreign policy is non-aligned. Therefore, Nigeria stands by itself. Nigeria is not going left or right. So you cannot question Nigeria's decision or who Nigeria has a relationship with.
Good to clarify that, but I'm still asking a big question about the genocide itself.
Mm-hmm.
You received ambassador whose government is taking is committing a genocide against the Palestinians, and then you ask about the lies which he's trying to say that Hamas killed civilians on 7th of October. I say we did not kill civilians. We attacked the army itself, and that was the army who was putting Gaza under the siege, killing the Palestinians. That army who attacked Gaza several times in 2021, one in 2008, 9, 12, and 14, and killed thousands of Palestinians. So that army who felt for a while that he is capable to kill the Palestinians without any response, he was attacked by the Palestinians to show the will of the Palestinians to resist this army. And that army fall down. That army fall down. All the Israelis understand that. In order to take back the revenge, they are killing the civilians. They are committing the genocide.
Okay. Let's talk about peace. Israel is demanding that Hamas release the 115 remaining hostages. They want that released today. Israel has said if Hamas releases those 115 hostages today, that they would stop the war in Gaza. Why isn't Hamas releasing the hostages?
They are lying. We have arranged to release the hostages and even the soldiers in November 2023. But the Israelis did not continue that process, and they attacked the Palestinian civilians, and that was undermined. The Israelis, they don't want their people. They want them to be killed because they want to use that as an excuse to continue the genocide against the Palestinians. They are talking about 100 people in Gaza. What about the 10,000 Palestinians in the Israeli jails, who 60 of them have been killed in the last few weeks?
Okay, sir. If I may come in. Okay, if I may come in there.
Excuse me.
Go ahead.
You can't talk just about 100 Israelis as if they have a blue blood and our blood is a water. We are, if you want to talk about the humans, you have to talk about them as equal humans. There is more than 14 million Palestinians are suffering from the occupation of Israel. You can't talk about just 10 or 100 or 1,000 of the Israelis who are suffering. We are talking about the suffering of more than 14 million Palestinians. This has to be ended, not as the nonsense which has been said by the Israelis and their ambassadors everywhere.
Okay, so if Israel were to release the 10,000 Palestinians who are Palestinian hostages with Israel, pardon?
They have to the occupied lands. They have to let the Palestinians establish their own independent sovereign state on their own home.
No, we're coming to that. We're going to come to that. But I do want to confirm. You have said that there are over 10,000 Palestinian hostages with Israel. So I'm asking, Israel have said if they get their 115 hostages back, they will stop the war in Gaza. Will Hamas commit that if Israel were to release the 10,000 Palestinian hostages, would Hamas then stop fighting Israel?
Look, the Israelis did not say what you are saying.
Actually, he did say that before your interview, sir.
This is the lies of the ambassador. I'm talking about the real negotiations. They have said through the negotiations, give us our own people, and just we will postpone the massacre for 6 weeks, and then we have the right to come back killing you. This was written in the papers which they have introduced to the mediators. They just want 6 weeks to have those people back and then continue the genocide against the Palestinians. That was their proposal on the march this year, and we rejected that. We said that we have to have a ceasefire, and also we want a complete Israeli withdrawal from Gaza, and then a prisoner exchange.
Okay.
This is what the negotiations are talking about in the last 6 months. The one who is postponing that, undermining that, rejecting all the ideas was the Israeli. Ask the mediators about their actions.
Okay, let me just tell my listeners, you can call 0201-277-0993. Female is 0201-465-7190. You can send your questions to WhatsApp on 0809-597-5805. I can probably only take one, perhaps two questions, but you have to be short and precise. Your name, where you're calling from, and your question. Not comment, your question, because we don't have much time. Okay, I'm coming to the calls now. Hello?
Hello, Sisi. Good evening.
Good evening. Your name, where you're calling from, and your question, please.
Nice job you're doing. My name is Marvin. I'm calling from Lagos.
What is your question, please?
From the way things are happening now, I don't see any end to this issue, because I believe.
What is your question, please? That is a comment. What is your question, please?
My question is, if, as you have just said, if Israel agrees to release the hostages, will Hamas bow and stop all the atrocities or something like that they are committing?
Okay, thank you. I believe my guest has already answered that. I'll go to the next call. Hello. Hello. Hello.
Hello. Good evening.
Good evening. Your name, where you're calling from, and your question, please.
My name is Tony, calling from Ikeja.
Go ahead, Tony.
I heard your guest. He said Israelites occupy their land. Why not go to international body? They settled it amicably. Nigeria and Cameroon, we have a difference, and it was settled. Why are they attacking Israel?
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm not sure if you heard that, but if you didn't, I'll just tell you later. Otherwise, you could write it down. My very last question, because we don't have much time, and I still have two questions for my guest. Hello. Hello?
Hello.
Yes, go ahead. Good evening. Your name, where you're calling from, and your question, please.
My name is Philip from Ikorodu, Lagos.
Mm-hmm.
My question is, to ask Mr. Hamas, or what, that is Hamas sorry of the incursion in Israel? He did not answer that question. Please, can he answer that question?
Okay.
Are they sorry or not?
I believe he did. You may not like the answer, but I believe he did. Thank you. Right, let me come back to you now because I can't take any more calls. I've run out of time and I've still got 2 more questions for my guest. So the one question I can put to you from all the questions that came through is, my caller, the one before the last one, said Hamas has got issues, Palestine has got issues with Israel. Why not resolve it at the international in the international community? So I think he meant the UN, the ICC, the ICJ. I'm not going to answer that. I'm going to let you answer that. If you could answer that in a minute, please, so that I can go to my next question.
Okay. There is hundreds of resolutions in the United Nations, either by the Security Council or by the General Assembly. None of them was implemented by Israel. The Palestinians have struggled for decades to achieve their rights through the political process. Until now, Israel is not replying. There is no international pressure on Israel to accept that.
Right.
Unfortunately.
Let's talk about Palestinian sovereignty. What does Palestinian sovereignty mean for the Palestinian people, not just Gazans, the Palestinian people in the land of Palestine and the Palestinians in the diaspora? What does Palestinian sovereignty mean for them?
For the Palestinians, their sovereignty, it means that they have the right as a nation to live among all the nations in their independent state, not under the supervision of any country, not controlled by anyone. They can make their own decision. They can elect their leadership on democratic basis, and it's the country for all the Palestinians, regardless to their beliefs, regardless to their political stance, regardless to who they are. This is what all the Palestinians believe about the sovereignty of their own state.
Okay. What is the relations between Fatah and Hamas? I understand there was peacekeeping talks, or, Turkey came and made peace between Fatah and Hamas. What is the relation now?
Well, Fatah and Hamas are the biggest and the most powerful organizations and political parties in Palestine. They are the major parties. They have their own differences. They have their own political problems. But at the end of the day, they are both Palestinians and they are both seeking to have their own rights as Palestinians. In different ways, they are working for the same cause and purpose. They are working to have and to achieve the main goal of the Palestinians, their own independent sovereign state. Some people from outside the Palestinian community, they thought for a while that those differences, maybe those this political struggle between those 2 organizations may give the Israelis or anyone else the right or the chance to interfere in the Palestinian internal issues. We did not accept ever that. So I believe everyone have to let the Palestinians to solve their own problems because they are united when it came to the struggle with the occupation.
Talk to me about the right of return for the Palestinians in the diaspora. Israel has a right of return for Israelis, Jewish people. However, Palestinians do not have the right of return to Palestinian land. How important is that right of return? If you could do that in 1 minute, please.
In 1 minute, the Palestinians who were deported from Palestine, they were deported by force, and they were killed or deported by force. Their sons and grandsons are living in diaspora. They are still having the keys of their own houses, the papers of their own lands, and they are not allowed to return to their home by the Israeli army, by the power of the Israeli army. Although, according to Geneva Accord, they have to have this right at the first moment when the ceasefire took place. That was 1949. Instead of sending them back home, they kept them because Israel did not want them to be back. I believe the Palestinians in diaspora are still committed to come back, and it's their right, because even we have 2 generations who were born outside, outside Palestine, they are still have their right as humans to go back to their homes. It's a very essential and important right for the Palestinians.
Okay, let's talk about the U.S. elections. Kamala Harris, who is the the U.S. Democrats presidential candidate, has said she supports a two-state solution. Whom would Hamas prefer to be the president of the United States in November?
Well, let me say this. All the presidents of the United States, they have said all the time that they support the two-state solution. Even Trump himself. Obama said that. Clinton said that. Jimmy Carter said that. Reagan, Bush Jr. Everyone said that they support the two-state solution, but no one did anything to make that as a fact. No one have done anything to make Israel withdraw from the occupied Palestinian lands. No one supported in a practical way, in a very effective way, the creation of a Palestinian state. So what's the meaning when Kamala Harris said that she supports the two-state solution? It's not enough for the Palestinians. We have to hear a very clear position that she is against the occupation, and she will do all her power to make Israel withdraw and to support the Palestinians to build their own state. She will boycott Israel. She will put Israel under a siege. She will send no more weapons, no more financial aid to Israel if they did not allow the Palestinians to have their own land. But saying just general words, it mean nothing for the Palestinians. For me, I want someone who believes in justice for the Palestinians. Otherwise, there is no issue to support this side or that.
It's been a most interesting conversation. Unfortunately, I still have two more questions, but unfortunately, we've run out of time. Mr. Osama Hamdan, Hamas spokesperson, joining us from Beirut. Thank you so much for being on Borderlines. I hope you join us again.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I hope so.
Have a wonderful weekend, sir. Thank you.
.3 Nigeria Info. We are more than just radio. Subscribe to our YouTube channel at Nigeria Info FM. Check us out on Facebook at Nigeria Info 99.3. Follow us on Twitter at Nigeria Info FM and on Instagram at Nigeria Info FM Lagos for live updates as it happens. 99.3 Nigeria Info. Let's talk.